Good morning. As we begin, just a few housekeeping notes. Please continue serving yourself breakfast, but we ask that you silence your cell phones. If you're unable to find a seat in this room, we have additional seating in the atrium. My name is Tony Adams. I am the Gulf States Regional President for First Horizon Bank. On behalf of First Horizon, we are proud to support BGR in their first of 4 breakfast briefings this year. We're proud to sponsor, and we are grateful for WWNO Public Radio for extending its reach. WWNO will rebroadcast this event on Tuesday, March 17th at 10 a.m. and again at 10 p.m. BGR breakfast briefings advance the organization's mission by giving citizens the opportunity to hear directly from government officials and policy experts on issues that matter to our community. Video recordings of today's program and other events are available at bgr.org. Following the program, we invite you to share your feedback. You will find survey forms at your seats that you can complete and return to us, or you can scan the QR code and complete the survey on your phone. We will display the QR code on the screen later in the program. Thank you for joining us this morning, and we hope you enjoyed today's discussion. I will now welcome Ann Banyos to the podium. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. We are so grateful to First Horizon Bank for once again sponsoring the Breakfast Briefing Series. Your support allows BGR to keep these events free and open to the public. My name is Ann Banyos, and I serve as board chair for the Bureau of Governmental Research. Before we begin today's discussion, and it's going to be a good one, I want to take a moment to highlight BGR's work. Through in-depth research, BGR tackles some of the most complex challenges facing local government in Orleans, Jefferson, and St. Tammany parishes. As the tagline goes, we do the research so you don't have to, providing independent analysis that strengthens accountability and informed public decision-making. Since our last breakfast briefing, BGR has released new reports addressing issues that affect all of us, like property taxes, drainage funding, and public subsidies. It's not always glamorous work, but it's the information we need to move things forward in our city. You'll find all of these reports and more at bgr.org. The best way to stay connected to BGR's work is to become a member. Membership forms are at your seats, or you can join on our website. We also invite you to follow us on social media at BGR-NOLA. Joining us for today's conversation on how to make city government work better for New Orleans are our city's new mayor, Helena Moreno, and BGR's president and CEO, Becky Mowbray. So we can get straight to the conversation, and because she needs no real introduction in this room, Mayor Moreno's biography is available at your seats. Couple quick things. At the conclusion of today's moderated discussion, we'll take questions from the audience. To submit a question, please scan the QR code on the screen or follow the printed instructions. This will take you to the online form at bgr.org/QA. Include your name if you'd like to be identified. The views expressed in today's program are those of our speakers. Please join me in welcoming Mayor Helena Moreno and Becky Mowbray.
Mayor Moreno, thank you again for joining us.
It's great to be here. Good morning, everyone.
Terrific. So we're about 2/3 of the way through your first 100 days, but you've actually been working on budget and administrative issues since you got elected in mid-October. Can you give us your assessment of which parts of city government are doing better than you expected and which are worse, and how is this shaping your agenda?
That's a great question, Becky. So obviously, before I was on the city council for 8 years, so I had a pretty good understanding of city government and city hall. Then I got inaugurated into office. And it's funny because that first day you get inaugurated, you come in and, you know, it's more ceremonial than anything, and you've got people around the office. And then that second day you come in, it all sets in. Wait a second, now I'm mayor. And as mayor, you really have the ability to see much more of what is happening within all of the city departments. One of the things that I very quickly saw is that, one, we actually have really phenomenal city employees. But what was also very clear is that they had in the past been lacking directives, accountability, and real management in departments. So as soon as we came in and kind of set the tone and set the goals, the productivity within City Hall immediately started to go up. And one of the things that I've so quickly saw just within our Department of Public Works folks is that when Steve Nelson came in as the new head of Public Works, I told Steve, I'm like, I don't know what you need to do, but you need to get the lights on. This drives me crazy that the lights aren't on. And so he got with this team and said, the directive is we have to get the lights on and we have to be impactful about this. So just as first day he gets in there and he had information from the district attorney's office where he took information on where turning on lights would have an impact, a beneficial impact on public safety. And so immediately he started deploying his teams to light up those areas. And so it wasn't just based on, let's go to the next 311 request. Where is this? Where you may be turning on a light that no one really cares about, but now we were starting to be impactful. And so the lights started to come on. And even with the Department of Safety and Permits, same thing. You know, Helena expects urgency, expects things to be happening quickly. We put the Deputy CAO of City Services in Safety and Permits to sit there and make sure that everyone was moving at the pace I wanted them to move in. And next thing we started hearing is that, oh, permits were getting done faster. So to me, that was very encouraging, that that we have really good people working there, but they needed better management, better directives, goal setting, which is what we're doing. What has been very, very hard and difficult is the financial situation that we're in. I mean, that is what I literally lose sleep over. That is what Joe Geruso, our CAO, loses sleep over. At 3 a.m. in the morning, we're texting each other like, oh my gosh, you know, we have $2 million in the general fund. You know, I mean, that is really, really hard. There was a time last week when we actually had $30,000 in the general fund. So we are holding on. And let me tell you why we're in that current situation of just like holding on. We actually wouldn't be in as significant of a bad shape if we didn't have the revenue anticipation note. As you all remember, I had to borrow last year to make it through payroll, that we are paying off right now. So that's an additional $125 million impact on the general fund that I have right now that I'm paying off. And so it's like this double whammy. Now, I do think I'm going to be able to get us out of this financial situation a lot faster than the legislative auditor thought. He thought it would take me 4 years to get out of it, and I'm projecting to get us out of it by 2027 with some very aggressive moves that I'm taking, where it's even surprising him. So I think that just shows kind of the team that I've built and who I've brought into my administration, where we're always finding solutions and pushing hard every single day. And while some say that it's going to take us longer to do things, we're saying, watch us, we're going to get things done faster.
Fantastic. That leads beautifully into the next few questions about city finances. So tell us more about what efforts are underway right now or planned in the next 6 months to stabilize the city's financial health and reduce or avoid another short-term borrowing.
The steps we had to take just right off the bat going into the 2026 budget included having major departmental budget cuts. We also had to do a series of eliminations of positions just within the mayor's office. Just within the mayor's office alone, I eliminated 36 positions. So we had to, start narrowing down our workforce. I tried to do whatever I could to not have to implement furloughs, but unfortunately I've had to do that. So we're currently implementing furloughs, which is 1 day for a 2-week pay period. We have also really managed very thoroughly overtime. There had been this approach of just like a free-for-all for overtime, which really blew up our budget. And now that we've put in place these different types of controls, we've already seen about a $10 million reduction in overtime. And so that just is, once again, a management issue, right, and an accountability issue. I'm also looking at potential renegotiation of some of the long-term leases that we have, and, of course, working on generating new revenue. There are some steps that I'm taking on the state legislature side on generating new revenue, and also here on the local side. You may have heard recently that this week I announced that I will be asking the New Orleans City Council to raise the sanitation fee. Let me be very clear. I hate doing that. I hate doing that. Politically, it's horrible. It's so bad. Everyone kept saying, please don't do this. It's just not good for you. Please don't raise the sanitation fee. People hate it. But guys, we're to the point where we have no choice. We have a $24 million gap between what this current sanitation fee covers and what the services cost. I also want to mention that the sanitation fee has not been touched since 2011. Jefferson Parish, East Baton Rouge, Lafayette Parish, the norm and what they do is that you match the fee to the services. We have not done that. We need to move in that direction. And it just kind of goes to really where I've been moving the city of New Orleans, that we just need to start moving toward operations of what other parishes do. I'm not saying that we need to do anything like super crazy or whatever. I'm just like, can we run New Orleans like other parishes and functioning cities do? So unfortunately, this is very unpopular. I can't even go on social media right now because people hate it so much on the sanitation fee. So I'm like, please just keep my phone away from me. But as CEO of the city, I have to do what is right to make sure that we structurally have a budget that is functional for meeting the needs of the people of the city. And the sanitation fee is one of the things that is very, very off. But if I can renegotiate some leases, if I can go back to the bond commission this summer and not do another revenue anticipation note, because that's very short-term borrowing. If I can come in and do a longer-term borrowing that I can pay off over several years of a major amount, not as much as before of $125 million. If I do these things, along with generate new revenue, I can get us out of this mess in 2027, which, like I said, the legislative auditor is shocked that we are moving this quickly and that we could get out of this by 2027 and not 4 years from now.
A couple of follow-ups on the revenue issues. So, as you noted, the sanitation fee has not kept pace with costs, and it hasn't been raised since 2011. In raising it now, would you consider doing like an annual escalator to make sure that in the future we don't end up in this situation again?
And that would be built in as part of it. That really the ordinance would say that the sanitation fee would always reflect the cost of services, and that would keep us in pace. And actually, if we would have been raising, the sanitation fee, $1.50 every year,
yeah,
we would have been fine.
Right.
And so, now we're so completely out of whack now. But that is something that would be part of it. And look, I'll leave it up to the city council as to, what types of services that they're looking for. I mean, if you're looking to go back to 2 pickups a week along with recycling, that's going to be a much higher fee than if you were just keeping services the same. And so I told the city council members, I'm like, look, whatever you all want to do service-wise, I'm going to be good with. Obviously, I don't want to backslide our services, of course, but it's like, you just make sure that the fee covers the cost of the services that you put in place.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned other revenue generators. Can you share a little bit about what you're thinking about in terms of other ways to raise revenue for the city?
Well, and sometimes when I talk about, kind of raising revenue is also eliminating costs that are on the city. So let me fill you all in on the situation that I'm having and other cities are having with the municipal police employee retirement system, because this is really critical. There is a law that the municipal police employee retirement system has that says if you lose more than 50 police officers in a year, you will then face a series of penalties, financial penalties, because the legislation passed says that they view you as then trying to defund the police department or dissolve the police department, okay? As you all know, the city of New Orleans has never tried to defund or dissolve the police department, but there were a couple years during COVID where we lost more than 50 police officers. Now, because of that, the city of New Orleans has now accrued over $38 million worth of fines that Emper says I owe. I might as well take that $38 million and put it in a bucket and light it on fire. I mean, it is literally like throwing money away. So I'm fighting tooth and nail not to pay this penalty. Now, other cities are also facing similar penalties because there's that same provision of law also says that if you lose a certain percentage of your police department, that you face these series of penalties. So very small municipalities that may have 5 police officers, they lose one to retirement and another one's injured and can't come back on the force, all of a sudden, now they're facing $2 million worth of fines and their little city probably only has an $800,000 budget. So it's not just New Orleans, it's cities across the state that are fighting this. So we're going to the legislature to get this rectified and also working with Empers on a settlement that we don't owe this money. But there's another piece too on Empers, this retirement system, where they say that bonuses, retention bonuses, which I've been paying, are pensionable. We argue that they are not. These quick spikes in pay aren't sustainable pay. And by making these pensionable, it actually starts this erratic fluctuation in the pension. So what ended up happening is that I'm in a cash flow meeting a few weeks ago, and we go through every payment meticulously. That's how closely we're watching the budget. And so the finance team says that I owe $3 million to Empers on my recent $12 million retention payment to the NOPD. And I'm like, wait. This is a bonus. Like, why are we paying toward a bonus? And the finance team is like, you're right, there's no other pension that allows for their bonuses to be pensionable, but Emper says that we do. I'm like, okay, well, show me the legislation that says that bonuses are pensionable, or show me their plan document that says this. They're like, no, there's no document. It's just they say that we owe it. And I'm like, okay. And so I called the legislative auditor because, as you all know, I've embedded the legislative auditor in my office. I've actually moved him into the mayor's office. He and his team are in my back conference room. Like, that's how closely I work with him. So he looks at everything. I go, Mike, what am I supposed to do? I mean, this is ridiculous. He's like, well, what did the city do in the past? I go, they just paid it, but I don't feel comfortable paying this. I don't feel like I owe this. He's like, do not pay it. Do not pay it. Let's work through this. And so now we're getting an opinion from the Attorney General that the legislative auditor asked for, and we're working on legislation as well to remedy this. Then once again, I find out that other cities are also facing the same debacle, that it's like we shouldn't be paying these additional payments for a variety of different reasons, including the fact that it probably disincentivizes cities from paying bonuses or paying high bonuses because they also know that they have to pay into the pension. So we're working to get that done. But that right there is about $41 million worth of savings that I would no longer be on the hook for.
One more revenue question. On the campaign trail, you had talked about you had talked about selling unused public buildings, which would both raise revenue and potentially put properties back on the tax rolls. Have you started making plans for that yet?
So I have tasked the New Orleans Building Corporation. For those of you all who may not be aware of what the New Orleans Building Corporation is, it's kind of a pseudo city, not city type of entity. They have their own governing board. But what they do is they negotiate really more complex real estate deals for the city of New Orleans. Cindy Connick used to be over it. Now Annie McBride is over it. And so I've tasked them with identifying the top 25 properties in the city of New Orleans that they believe we could quickly put back into commerce. So whether they would be some kind of long-term lease or whether we would just outright sell the property. And so that is being done as we speak.
That's great. Okay. So what efforts are underway let's see, sorry. As your administration works to stabilize finances in the short term, what are you doing about long-term financial planning and practices to ensure that we never end up in another self-inflicted financial crisis like this one again? What guardrails are you trying to put in place?
Yeah, and honestly, it's about ensuring that the guardrails that we have right now, that those remain. And so that means, constantly looking at our cash flow, being very careful about what we're doing as far as approving hires, because that was the other piece too. When we had this big influx of cash, it just seemed that all the departments were hiring, everybody. And I mean, everybody had an executive assistant and everybody had a chief of staff all of a sudden. And so, we have to be very careful on the hiring based on real need. And so we can't ease up, I guess is my point. Like right now, our cash management meetings are 3 times a week. Joe Geruso meets daily with his team. So it's that level of scrutiny that is necessary to make sure that things don't get out of whack. So once we get government stabilized, hopefully, knock on wood, in 2027, once we get it stabilized and structured right, we just have to ensure that we're maintaining. And then from that point on, as I always like to say, that's where we have the opportunity to really then start growing the amount of tax dollars that come into our city government through sales tax, because of the new opportunities that we can go out there and try to generate. So that means bringing in new industry, bringing in new businesses, and really focusing in on that. Because I can tell you that, I want to make sure that I manage people's expectations, and I've talked about this before, that when you get into office, people sometimes expect a light switch to come on and that everything's going to be all of a sudden just fixed and repaired, and all the broken agencies that we've had throughout the city, that just like that, I'm going to get them all done. We've had to have an all-hands-on-deck approach on really essential services, which is, of course, your infrastructure and your lighting and city budget. Like, that has been really an all-hands-on-deck approach. And so once we get that stabilized and functional, then we can start building upon that. And so while we are working, of course, on economic opportunities, I talk to Susan Bourgeois almost daily on things that we can be doing. I want you all to know that I know that you all want so many different things right now and so many things fixed right now, but I want you all to know that I have to have my team so fully focused on getting us out of this mess by 2027 that some of the other things that you may be thinking about, just give it a moment. We're going to definitely get to those, but I need to be honest with everyone to manage expectations. I had someone get on me the other day about why I haven't fixed Hanno yet. Working on it, but just give it a moment. I have to make sure that it's like you're a firefighter. You got to go into where the biggest fire's at, put that fire out, and then we can start putting out all the different hot spots after that.
Terrific. Reforming the Department of Safety and Permits is top of mind for many residents and business owners. You recently hired a new director for this department. What issues must be addressed to build an effective safety and permits operation?
So there'll be an official announcement on Monday, so I don't want to, put it out there just quite yet, but I'm excited about her coming on. Safety and permits, as we all know, for too long has been a barrier for progress here in the city of New Orleans. Whether you are just trying to start a business, whether you're just trying to have your business just function and operate correctly, or whether you are, just a homeowner trying to do a renovation to your house. Like, just progress has been stalled because that department has been so inefficient. So the first thing that we did, as I mentioned to you all, is we put Austin Welty in there, the Deputy CAO of City Services, just to be in the office and see what was happening and start managing our employees there just in a more effective manner. And just on that, we started to see progress. So one, we had a management issue, and so improving management and accountability was key. But then the other piece too that we're seeing is that there's a major process breakdown, right? So there's so many different steps that permits need to go through, and there's always this breakdown. And usually that's because of the number of signatures that are required and the fact that sometimes you only have like one individual who can sign off on something, and God forbid this person is out on vacation, it stalls everything. So improving the processes has to be key and top of mind. And then the other piece too is we are so behind on technology in the city of New Orleans. I'm telling you, we're like at 80s or 90s, like the 80s, we're like on Windows 93 or something at this point. I mean, we're so behind. We have to get up to date. And I'm not saying we have to be top tier in this country, but we have to get up to date with technology improvements. And just in meeting with different mayors and meeting with different city managers in other parts of the country that have been able to meet, you know, whether it's via phone call or Zoom because of the U.S. Conference of Mayors, or just in talking with them, everyone is looking at different ways in which AI can assist with city government. And the permitting piece is where everyone is really leaning towards. Because once again, permitting so often is a series of checks. Did you do all these things? And so that is where AI is really getting adopted into city government. And so the new director very much understands that and understands the need for that kind of integration of technology. But she also understands that there is nothing wrong with looking for added assistance. I've never been scared to ask for help. And so we are looking for additional support from third parties to assist with really reforming safety and permits. And I've also met with the folks at the Rockefeller Center in Washington, D.C., and they too, you know, pro bono would like to offer their services and consultation to assist us with reforms at safety and permits. So all of these things need to come together with our new director to start moving us in a much improved, better direction with permitting.
Fantastic. So when you were in D.C. for Washington Mardi Gras, you had lots of meetings about extending the deadline for New Orleans to spend the FEMA funding for Katrina damaged streets. Any results to report from those meetings?
Okay, what she is talking about is the JI, it's called JIRR, it's a joint infrastructure dollars that were owed from Hurricane Katrina. It was a roughly close to $2 billion, and we'd spent a great deal of it, but that money technically expired in 2025, at the end of 2025. So the city had asked for an extension to 2028. The city was granted just a 6-month extension to July of 2026. We still have about $500 million left over. That's our money. That's our money. But I kept saying, I'm like, okay, I appreciate the 6 months, but 6 months is not good for long-term planning of $500 million worth of projects, okay? So we have been working nonstop on the JRR extension going to 2028. I'm going to be very honest with you on what the issues have been. So the issues is, look, we have support from our congressional delegation, Troy Carter, Steve Scalise, Bill Cassidy, even the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, is supporting. Like, we have all this support. The problem is this whole shutdown and whatever's happening with FEMA and the funding and whatever, we can't seem to get our extension requests to where it needs to go. So GOSEP, the governor's office, is working with us. So we've got GOSEP sending it to, and we're all on these emails sending it to FEMA. And then, you know, we've got members of Congress calling FEMA, and they're like, we don't have the extension. And GOSEP, the governor's office, and we're like, but the FEMA folks have responded that they have it. So it's like, guys, we are stuck in this black hole of FEMA right now with our extension request. Now, the positive thing is that all the people who need to be supporting it are supporting it. And so that's very positive. And we also have some very key leaders within the business community here in the city of New Orleans who are also pushing the governor, federal government. And so the support is there. We have it there. Our information is in. We're just stuck in this, like, what is going on with FEMA right now? But we are hoping to get that extension to 2028, because I can tell you, you know, these little 6-month extensions, like here's 6 months, here's another 6 months, like that is so it's not, we can't operate. We can't long-term plan on the amount of streets that still have to be redone. And look, there are some very big things that could be coming to our city in the next few years. I know you all know we're trying to get another Super Bowl. Guys, I have to get our streets redone. I mean, come on, we have to finish with this in 2028. Like, that has to be finished, that has to be complete, particularly if we're trying to get a Super Bowl 2030, 2031. So that's how critical this project is. And so every day we push and every day we troubleshoot. And it's just been incredibly frustrating because we have the support. We have the support. And it's just like, come on, FEMA, somebody, whoever, like, somebody stamp it. Let's just go stamp it and let's get to 2028.
Okay, so let's talk about the rash of water main breaks. Yes. We had planned a question about that. We've got several questions from the audience about that as well. Our water pipe network is old and fragile. What can we do about this, and how will you work with the Sewerage and Water Board to address the pipe network in the coming years?
January when we had the freeze, and I'm so glad I was only in Washington Mardi Gras for 2 days for meetings, because I came home to the first pipe break. And so I was here when that happened, and that was on Panola Street when the first one happened. And then we started to, of course, have another series of pipe breaks all within that same general area. And, look, when the first pipe break happened, Becky, I get it. I too said, you know what, it was really cold. We have a very old system. And yes, when there are major fluctuations in weather like that, these things can happen. Got it. Okay, so that's a one-off, right? But then problems persisted, and we would see that, there were additional bubbling ups dealing with these same two major pipes. And now, by, I guess, the fourth or fifth break that we're at now, I was not necessarily enthused to hear that we have old pipes and we don't have any money. So when you're see, the way that I look at things and the way that I operate it is, it's like, okay, you see a problem, there's a problem, what potentially could be the solution, how much does it cost, and then let's go try to find the money. So in the Uptown situation, when we started to see a pattern, the excuse of we have old pipes and, we don't have any money wasn't enough. It's like now we're seeing a pattern. So because we're seeing a pattern, I asked the Sewage and Water Board, what is the solution? And I wasn't really getting any. So that's when I put Steve Nelson, who's my Deputy CAO of Infrastructure. I'm like, look, Steve, I need you now to start weighing in, and what are the solutions? So there's a couple things that we can do where we're seeing that there are issues bubbling up, literally bubbling up. So first, what you do is it's called an acoustic analysis, and what you do, it's like, I'm no expert, but I feel like I'm becoming one now. But I'm no expert, but it's literally, it's listening to where, through a pipe, where you're hearing extra hissing, and that is where you're able to determine where there are additional weaknesses within a major pipe. So Steve's like, we have to do that. So I said, reach out to the Sewage and Water Board that they need to start figuring that out. So they're moving toward trying to get some procurement on the acoustic analysis. Then the other piece that Steve mentioned to me is, look, these pipes are major pipes that run through Uptown. One of the things we need to potentially start looking at and getting cost estimates around are essentially you're lining the pipe. So there's two ways you can do this. One, you run almost like a rubber pipe inside of the current pipe, and so the current pipe becomes like the shell casing around it. Or there's this method that we've used with some of our sewer lines, but can also be used for other lines as well, and other cities are using it when they're doing drinking water, lead remediation in their lines. And that's like this new kind of a epoxy that you put on the inside of a pipe, and then it hardens, and that essentially becomes the new pipe. And so Steve is doing, different cost analysis to see what that potentially could cost. So once again, it's you identify the problem, then what are the potential solutions, and then what is the potential cost. It's not going to be cheap. I mean, just, on doing a lining of one of the pipes, it could, potentially cost $40 million or more. But once we have a real specific number, well, then I can go work with our Baton Rouge delegation. I can go work with our federal delegation. Right now, it's earmark time in the state in our nation's capital, in Washington, D.C. And so potentially, if we get from 4 members of Congress a $10 million earmark, that's $40 million right there. So like I said, if you give me specifics, I can help you. And so that's really what I'm looking for from Sewage and Water Board, really specific plans and solutions on persistent problems, and then we collectively can work together to get the funding around it.
Fantastic. So what's the latest plans for the bond issue using the new $510 million of bond authority that the voters approved last fall? And how will the bond rating downgrades affect the city's plans?
Well, obviously, I was disappointed that we had the downgrade in our rating, but I also knew that it was coming. And so there are a couple things that we are doing to get our bond rating back up. One is obviously fixing our budget and restoring our fund balance. And one of the ways I can restore our fund balance is through renegotiating some of our long-term leases that we have here in the city. So that means I take a big upfront payment instead of getting the yearly leases or the monthly amounts. I take a big upfront payment, and that can build up my fund balance. And then, of course, also getting in our audits to the legislative auditor, our annual audit in on time. Doing those things could very quickly increase our rating. The other thing, too, that agencies want to see is that I am taking steps to raise revenue, to generate new revenue, which, as you all have heard already, I am doing. So we're hoping to get our rating in much better shape sooner than expected. And then your question is also about the bond sale and the bond projects coming up. So as you recall, those projects are in a resolution, and so people can see all the different projects that are happening. A lot of them are also road projects that are happening across the city. But I do want to take note that some of the projects that were in the resolution from the previous council, this council is also looking at to make sure that they are still aligning with the priorities in their district. And so you could potentially see some changes. Also, I know that I'm interested and the council is interested on ensuring that this upcoming bond sale is also supporting, really important economic development projects that we have across the city, and that we're fulfilling our commitment to, have that partnership with certain projects as well.
I want to get in a public safety question. So during your term in office, what changes should residents expect to see in the neighborhoods, from traditional policing to community and infrastructure investments, that would signal improvement in public safety?
My public safety priorities have always remained the same, that I'm always about going after the most violent offenders here in the city of New Orleans and doing all possible to get them off of our streets. So one of the things that I believe Ann Kirkpatrick has done well is build relationships with our state and federal partners. So that level of collaboration is much better than it's been in years past. And so that certainly has been, in my opinion, very impactful. And those relationships have been particularly successful during our major events. We were able to, of course, have Mardi Gras be a Sear 1 event as well as New Year's Eve. And having that Sear 1 designation for these major events is critical because it brings in additional intelligence. There are things that are stopped that the general public never knows about, but those were stopped in advance. There's additional tactical support. And I do believe that it's because of that level of coordination between state and federal partners that this year, y'all, we had such an amazing Mardi Gras, such a safe Mardi Gras. I every day I was praying. I was like, please don't have anything crazy happen, And it was a really fantastic time and fantastic event. But as we move forward, there are a couple of things that we really need to start focusing in on. Response times, continue to be something that's challenging. And there is a way to improve response times, believe it or not, with technology. And what I'm talking about is drones. So Jefferson Parish has a program where they deploy drones to scenes like immediately. So immediately, let's say you've got potential car burglary happening. They'll deploy the drone immediately. The drone starts taking video, and you are able to then know who you're looking for just like that. And these drones are deployed immediately. So you've got like, a couple minutes and they're there. Versus, of course, having to get a police officer out there. So now we're working on implementing the same drone program here in New Orleans as a pilot program, starting off in the French Quarter and then moving into the 7th District, New Orleans East, to see what that looks like as well as far as our response times and identifying the individuals who are perpetrating these crimes. Now, I think that there's been this like misinformation that this is some way like additional surveillance or anything like that. It's not. And in fact, the drones don't even start recording until they actually get to the site of where the potential crime has happened. So this is literally about response, about catching people faster. And then, of course, the other piece, too, just on the NOPD side, and then I'll talk about prevention, is recruitment. We're still struggling with recruitment of police officers, and I know we're not the only city that's struggling with recruitment. It's across the country. But I still am looking for increased efforts, enhanced efforts on what we can be doing with recruitment. And it has to be more than just putting up billboards and making commercials. It has to be a real plan as to how we are constantly contacting people who are interested in becoming NOPD officers. I don't know how many of your kids have applied to universities, and you know what it's like when you have the recruiter that won't stop calling your house. But that's what we need. We need that level of outreach, constant outreach. And I continue to question whether having just a few officers within the NOPD to do that is substantial enough, considering that every other city is facing that same obstacle, and they are really, really ramped up on their recruiting efforts. And then I just briefly want to talk about the prevention piece, because that is critically important, which is why I didn't make any cuts to NORD, which is why I continue to work with those groups, those nonprofits who are the boots on the ground, working on youth and recreation programs, working on violence prevention programs, and why I continue to say that investment is important. And while some may say, you have all these budget issues, why are you still supporting some of these organizations like 18th Ward and, YEP and others that, but it's because of the level of work that they are doing and the results that they provide when it comes to prevention. It's like, Helena, why are you still doing summer jobs? You should just cut that program. Are you kidding me? Summer jobs, I want to have 2,000 kids employed this summer. That ultimately is a public safety initiative. It's crime prevention. It's creating opportunities for our young people and creating opportunities for them to succeed. And that's what leads us to be safer as well. And we have an amazing health department that now I have Dr. Avegno, who's now deputy mayor. And Dr. Avegno continues to focus in on crime prevention initiatives and in fact continues to travel to Washington, D.C. to get additional grants to focus on the prevention piece as well.
Fantastic. One more question before we transition to the audience portion of the program. So, Mayor Moreno, you mentioned earlier the need for patience, that there's a lot going on with city finances. If a resident checks back with you 2 years from now, what specific everyday improvements should they expect to see in city government, and what might still be unresolved?
I hope that in 2 years, and I don't even say hope, because I'm going to get it done. In 2 years, I want the people of the city to say it's like, wow, this city is just functioning in a much better way. I want people to say it's like, oh my goodness, Helena's street paving unit with 50 DPW employees that she found a way to pay for, not through general fund, but through bond dollars. Wow, they are transforming our streets and our street repairs. Oh my goodness, our streets are better, our lights are on, Our essential basic services are much improved. So we're already a safer city because we're seeing the public safety improvements in our NOPD and the work of our NOPD. And I need to focus, and all my focus right now is on our budget and our essential services. So I want to have a budget that we're no longer underwater. I want to have essential services where you all can say it's like, wow, this city seems like it's actually functioning. I want safety and permits in 2 years to, of course, be a much more functioning department. Those are things I know I can accomplish in 2 years. The things that'll take longer is what we talked about earlier. It's our aging infrastructure. That will continue to be an issue 2 years from now. We can't get that all fully fixed and repaired in 2 years, but that doesn't mean that we can't put a step-by-step plan on remediation and mitigation of problems as well. So those issues, I think, will still be, of course, persisting, but that doesn't mean that in 2 years we can't be really we can't start to really chip away at a real solution and a real plan.
Terrific. Thank you for that excellent discussion. Thank you to all of you in the audience for the questions that you've been submitting so far. If you have additional questions that you'd like to submit, please scan the QR code on your phone and send them in, or you can write them down and hand them, like, hold the piece of paper up and a BGR staff member will get it from you and bring it up here. So, several of the questions we've had come in so far have had to do with economic development, economic activity, and population. It's noted by several folks that, Dallas, Metro Atlanta, and Metro Houston have long been bigger than us, but, in recent years, Charlotte, Austin, Nashville, they've all really grown, and now, from a population standpoint, our peers are really cities like Raleigh, North Carolina, and Charleston. How do we overcome our fundamentally small scale and grow our economy? And if we're no longer in the same economic universe as places like Houston, Atlanta, Charlotte, and Austin, what other metro areas are viable models for Metro New Orleans?
First and foremost, I have to say this. First, we have to stop counting ourselves out. Let me tell you what I mean by that. I've had many conversations about, on different projects that I'd like to reach out to whatever billionaire, from another part of the country to do certain types of investment. And can I just tell you that so often when I say these things, the response I get is, they'll never be interested in New Orleans. Don't even bother. No, we don't have the market for that. Well, let me tell you this. With that kind of attitude, of course not. We're never going to get to whatever we want to be. And so I'm going to be doing that level of outreach, and I've already been doing that level of outreach. And maybe my specific ask won't be met, but maybe it'll pique their interest in New Orleans, and there'll be another type of investment. Someone who I've said before is an absolute rock star is the head of LED right now for the state of Louisiana, Susan Bourgeois. And Susan and I have had many discussions, and what I've told Susan is that what I like about the two of us is that we like to think outside the box. And she goes, Helena, let me put it better to you. There is no box. Throw the box away. And think of New Orleans, where opportunities are limitless. So make the ask. So there are certain things that we're working on that I think could be transformational. They won't be easy, and they are a stretch, but it's worth the ask. The other piece, too, that I think is so important, and I'm actually going to tout that this week is Entrepreneur Week in the city of New Orleans, and that is a support for our entrepreneurs here in the city of New Orleans. The entrepreneurs in our city, young people with great ideas, they've never really felt supported, at least from city government. And so I'm leaning in to say that we see you and that I'm pushing GNO Inc. and others to find ways to ensure that our entrepreneurs here in our city, that they have access to capital, that their big ideas can turn into multi-million-dollar companies right here in the city of New Orleans. And if you look at how the city of Austin was able to diversify their economy, that's what they did. They leaned into supporting those people who had ideas in Austin of new ways of new types of businesses, and they supported them, and look at what Austin has ultimately become over the past 30, 35 years. The other piece, too, has to do with our major economic development projects happening right here in the city. The charity project is vital, making sure that that comes online. We have to ensure that the River District, that comes online. I'm glad that that project is on track. Lindy Boggs, I'm about to do a ribbon cutting on it being, started, so that's exciting. So Lindy Boggs, so we have a lot of momentum there. But let me also tell you this, sometimes we're not very good at telling stories of success, okay? So the other day I'm having a meeting with airport leadership. And they tell me that they have submitted to the FAA our 20-year master plan, 60 gates, 3 terminals, 3 parking garages, new roads, et cetera, to meet the demand of our region. This is transformative. And I'm like, hey, where was the news release? Where was the big news conference? Oh, well, we just, figured, we'll once we get approval. I'm like, oh, no, I'm calling all the parish presidents. I'm calling all the parish presidents, and I want all the parish presidents to stand together and say how we support this regional plan, and we need the FAA approval to ensure that the airport is expanded so that we can meet the demands of our region, which, by the way, we'll be doing next week, all the parish presidents. And really that regional approach is something that on the economic development side, that's how we capture bigger things. New Orleans operating by itself, Jefferson Parish operating by itself, St. Charles all operating by itself doesn't lead to the results that we could actually achieve if we work as a region. So I've been very proud, and I didn't think it was going to be so newsworthy, but it ended up being newsworthy. I've been very proud to start bringing all of our regional parish presidents together. And when I had a dinner with everyone and we started getting together, it turned out to be this big story because apparently that hadn't happened in quite some time, which doesn't really make sense to me because we are stronger together. So now we've got this text thread where myself and all the other parish presidents are working on a variety of different issues this legislative session. We'll be all coming together to support the airport expansion next week, which we're really excited about. And then hopefully we get this FAA expansion because, guys, let me tell you this. This is also really good news. Did y'all know we're just on the cusp of becoming a major airport here in our region? The New Orleans airport, we have always been a medium-sized airport. Guys, if we become a major airport, that's the story that we tell, that we've got things going on here in the city of New Orleans and in our region. And that vibe, that excitement, attracts more. So I know that to keep this vibe, to keep this excitement, that a lot of that's on me. That a lot of that's on me making sure that every day I'm working, every day I'm grinding, every day I'm providing results, that you have a functioning government with a leader who's operating in honesty and transparency and getting things done. And so if I can continue doing that, we continue this vibe going, that right there will lead to more and more investment and opportunity. Because New Orleans already has it all. I mean, look at the city. Like, this city is amazing. We have one of the most amazing cities, not just in this country, but in this world. And if we just make it function, the sky is the limit.
Very good. We have
It's
several.
the truth.
We have several questions coming in related to public health. So many of our essential departments that keep people safe and healthy, such as health, climate resilience, community development, rely heavily on federal funds and historically receive very few general fund dollars. In the midst of federal cuts, clawbacks, and dysfunction, will New Orleans reprioritize its own resources to make people safe? And what are your public health priorities?
So this is why I knew that I had to elevate Dr. Jennifer Avegno's position to deputy mayor. Let me just tell you, there is no other parish that captures the amount of grants that our New Orleans Health Department does. I mean, in fact, we have one program, speaking of public health, that I'm so excited about that will be expanding statewide, and we're going to get Medicaid coverage for it now. So the city of New Orleans started a pilot program a while ago, and this was to have in-home visits for all of our new mothers, okay? I appreciate that. And so this has turned out to have just transformative results. And because of that, it caught the attention of the new Director of Health and Human Services for the state, or the Health Department for the state, Bruce Greenstein. And so now we started working on a statewide expansion. And he started working on ensuring that Medicaid would cover this. And so we're working now with the Women's Caucus, the Louisiana Legislative Women's Caucus, to have kind of a major announcement around this. But that just goes to show that our health department not only is still finding a way and finding a path to get those federal dollars coming in, but we're also finding a way and a path to expand these services beyond the city of New Orleans.
Okay, terrific. We also have some questions about the RTA. As a city that is largely walkable, we have an opportunity to develop a transit system that is world-class. Yet the problems are systemic. Streetcars and buses are unreliable, not on time, too infrequent, and bike paths, a real transportation option, and sidewalks need upgrades. What are your plans to improve these?
When we talk about the RTA, you know, once again, it goes to we need to ensure that we have a functioning agency. And the RTA over the past several years, it's been mired with investigations, with Jefferson Parish leaving the RTA. And so one, I have to put in place reforms to regain trust in that particular agency and show that that agency is functioning. So there are some major changes I'll be making to RTA. I've also had conversations with, of course, President Lee Sheng and Jefferson Parish about finding a path to get Jefferson to come back in. I think that that's not going to happen until they see some real reforms and until they see that the RTA is truly a regional transportation agency. You know, we've had requests for quite some time. St. Bernard is looking for routes going into St. Bernard, particularly because of Nunez. So we have to look at, once again, RTA not just being about New Orleans, but a real regional transportation agency. And that, if we can accomplish that, will lead to additional federal money coming in as well. But that is also on the absolutely priority, working on it. But once again, I need to manage expectations. I'm gonna put that on the Hano list as well. Like, yes, like these are very important agencies, no doubt about it. And they are a priority. But I have to put the biggest fire out now, which is our essential services and our budget. And RTA certainly we're working on, and in fact, I just kind of switched out the board with my members just appointed about a week ago.
Terrific. We've also got several questions about recycling. Jefferson Parish discontinued curbside recycling to reduce expenses and instead offers various drop-off locations. Given that New Orleans currently reports about a 2% success rate, I did not know that, with its curbside recycling program, how are you thinking about the long-term future of recycling in the city and whether approaches like expanded drop-off locations might provide a more cost-effective model that also leads to more successful recycling outcomes? And can there be more than one toxic waste drop-off day a year?
For the drop-off days, yes, that is certainly something that we can expand. We can also expand glass drop-off sites throughout the city, which I've already talked to Director Torrey about doing. I personally recycle. I like recycling. My stepdaughter is a huge, huge recycling advocate. I certainly saw what Jefferson Parish did. Ultimately, about 42% of residents in New Orleans sign up for recycling. But you're right, only 2% is actually something that makes it through into the recycling area of disposal. So that is troubling. I do think on the education side we can improve that, but it'll be up to the city council, as I mentioned before. You know, I mean, I need the fees to match up to the cost of services. Once again, I personally recycle. I'm a fan of recycling, but it'll be up to the city council on what they decide to do. I do think that curbside recycling will remain, though.
Okay. I'm going to squeeze one closing question in. What would rebuilding trust between residents and City Hall look like in practical terms?
They have to see my work. That's it. I mean, I have to prove it. I have to show it every day. I have to show up every day. I have to show it every day. that's the only way. I mean, there's nothing that I can say, you know, just in one day or every once in a while. I mean, they have to see it every day, and they have to see results out in the city too, out in the community, out in the city. That's the only way. They have to see my team out there. They have to see results. That's really the only way. And I will say this: every day we work, every day we grind, and that is one thing I can commit to you. I can't commit that I will be perfect, because I'm certainly not perfect. I can't commit that I won't make mistakes, but when I make mistakes, I'll own up to my mistakes and I'll correct. But what I can commit to and what I can promise is that you do have a mayor that every day works hard, night and day, for the people of this city, because I know what this city can be, and I know that you do too. So thank you all so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Oops. So I'm afraid that's all the time we have for questions. Thank you. Thank you to Mayor Moreno. Thank you again to First Horizon Bank for its generous sponsorship. Thank you to all of you for joining us this morning. Please remember to complete your survey. It really helps us with planning these events. You can use the QR code to take the survey or fill out a paper survey. A recording of today's breakfast briefing will be available on our website, bgr.org. It will also be rebroadcast on WWNO New Orleans Public Radio on Tuesday, March 17th at 10 a.m. and 10 p.m. We look forward to seeing you again at future BGR events. And before you leave, if not already, I encourage you to become a BGR member. Your membership fuels our research and makes an event like this possible. Thanks for joining us, and have a great day.